I have, excuse me, started out a little early. I want to make sure that nothing goes wrong this week. There we go. And it's important for me to make sure that all is well as we prepare, excuse me, for tonight's study. And excuse me for a minute, I'm just pulling up some people so I can make sure that we include. Here's what I'm asking you to do in preparation for beginning, that you would make sure that you share, tell everybody to share, or share with everyone that you know, so that we can get as many people on as possible in preparation for what we're going to talk about tonight. And so this is extremely important for us to make sure that we get the word out. I am grateful because I realize, excuse me, that I'm an hour behind in coming on, and I know that probably has thrown some people off, but yet still we are here so that we can share with you in our study. So please, ma'am, please, sir, make sure that you share with as many people as you can as we begin our study for tonight. I'm sending the invites out so that people will know that we are live and ready to roll. I pray that I don't lose everybody because of the time change, but I'm going to press on with what I have. So that's important. Okay, all right. I look here. My God, y'all are here. I didn't see anybody on this one, and that kind of had me thrown off a little bit. So I'm going to look one more place, and then we're going to begin for tonight. And after we get this together, and we will go from there. Please excuse me for just a moment. I want to make sure that I have everything in order. Let's see. Hey, Tina, how you doing? Cora, good to see you. Katrina, good evening to you. Laverne, good evening to you. Jewel, good evening. Gladys, good to see you. Oh my God, hold on. There's so many of y'all. Okay. Carletta, good evening. Pat, good evening. Minister Michael, good evening. Yes, YouTube should be up and running as well. Okay. Good afternoon, Minister Feli. I'm grateful to God for all of you who are with us. I have a question to ask you while I'm doing this, and I really need you to be as honest as you possibly can, because tonight's going to require some real honesty. Have you ever been, good evening, Minister Sarah, have you ever been so angry that you did something stupid? Have you ever found yourself in a position where you got so mad, so frustrated, that you turned around? Hey, Mark, how you doing this evening? Marilyn, hey, niece. I mean, you didn't really care what you said. You didn't really care who you said it to. You really didn't care what the consequences were. You really didn't care what the collateral damage would be, because You are just so bent out of shape. Hey, Brenda, how you doing? You are so bent out of shape or so bitter or so frustrated or so hurt or so maligned that you are no longer thinking, hey, Chris, how you doing, sir? Good to see you. I mean, you didn't give a good doggone what anybody thought, how they felt about it. As a matter of fact, you just kind of plunged into it. And the next thing you know, you got damage everywhere. I mean, I don't care where you go. You got folk all over the place that you done messed up. You done messed over. You've done all kind of stuff. And here's the thing that many of us don't recognize or even realize in the midst of being angry. In the midst of being angry, you create a situation that does not just encompass you, but you create a situation where you create collateral damage everywhere you go. Okay, here I got y'all now. Okay, good evening, Minister Faye. Lisa Finney, see you. Goalie, good to have you on here. Denise Freisen. Tasha, hey. Sandra, good. I mean, you it made you absolute, and then you dared somebody to confront you. You dared somebody to have anything to say. Well, let me talk to you. This is the same condition that Jonah has found himself in. And in this position that he's in, he doesn't care. He hates these people so much. His anger toward them is so fueled. Hey, Maria, Jewel, with so much anger and hatred that he just decides that he's not going to do what God would have him to do, but he actually believes that he can run away from the presence of God. He actually believes that he can run away from what's going on. And here's the thing that many of us need to recognize and to understand. There is not one place you can go that you can run from God. There is not one place you can hide that God does not see. And so in the midst of all of this, hey, Nancy, and in the midst of all of this, we see quite clearly that Jonah has said, I don't care. I'm going to I'm going to pay to get as far away, 2,500 miles away from where I got my assignment to go to Nineveh and to preach, because I know that if I go there, God is gracious and kind. Now, y'all, listen, isn't it sad that you find yourself in a position where you want the grace of God, but you're not willing to give to somebody else what God has given to you? I wish I had a couple people in here that caught that. Whenever we become angry to the point that we are out of control, we don't realize that God is being gracious while we're not. And because God is gracious to us, we get angry with God because we don't want the same grace that we want or have received or are receiving to be replicated into the life of anybody else. I see you, Carolyn Williams. Good to see you on tonight. Okay? All right? So here's the problem. He decides to get on the boat. When he gets on the boat, he forgets that God is everywhere. So he gets on the boat, going in the opposite direction, trying to get as far away from God as he possibly can. The problem is, as David has said, where can I go that I can hide from you? If I take the wings of the morning, you're there. If I make my bed in hell, you're there. And so he finds out that his arms are just a little bit too short to box with God. Well, here's the problem. Here's the problem. The problem is, anytime that you decide that you're going to do it your way, because again, this is not Burger King. You can't have it your way. And here's, hey, Walina, how you doing? Valerie, how you doing? Here's the problem. Are y'all with me? Here's the problem. Why would you want it your way when your way has never produced that much anyway? Can I say that one more time? Why would you want it your way when you know your way doesn't produce much anyway? And so he decides that he's going to get into this boat. He pays his fare. And you remember what I said to you on last week, that whenever you operate in the will of God, God will provide the revenue, the finances that you need to get to where you need to go, to do what God has preordained for you to do. But whenever you decide that you're going to do it your way, you're going to pay a cost. You're going to pay a price. Remember Jochebed? Remember I told you about Jochebed? How God did something miraculous. The fact that baby Moses was born, she put the baby in a basket, a crocodile infested situation. Okay. And in the midst of that floated the little thing down the river, and one of the servants caught it, opened it up, and found out, hey, Daryl, how you doing? That there's a baby in here. And when the baby cried, it touched Pharaoh's daughter's heart. Jochebed was off to the side, and she said, I need somebody to nurse this baby. They bring the mother of the baby over to nurse her own child and get paid for it. See, y'all can't handle that. I just needed to get that out there. So whenever you decide that you are going to step outside of the will of God, you have also cut off the financial revenue that God also has in place for you, because you are not following his will. Well, he gets on this boat. He decides that he's going to go wherever he wants to go and do whatever he wants to do. And he gets on the ship. And the Bible says that a storm of an unbelievable magnitude began to rise up. Are y'all with me so far? I need to move this so I can quit looking down and I can look at what I'm doing. And so in the midst of this, in the midst of all of this, we see that Jonah's bitterness is so vehemently fueled. Oh, don't forget, y'all. Make sure y'all share this. Make sure y'all share. Everybody that's out there, everybody out there right now, share it. That way other folk can be blessed by what I believe the Lord has for tonight. He is so vehemently bitter toward the grace of God that he knows will inevitably be shown to somebody else. Here's what he does. He gets on the boat, but the storm rises. Anytime, ladies and gentlemen, that you decide that your way is the best way, a storm is coming. And so while he's on the ship, the people on the ship become afraid. Now, you got to remember, these ain't no wimps. These are some very husky, strong, muscular, daring, virile men. These are men who have navigated the seas. These are men who have been in, okay, thank you for sharing. These are men who have been in storms before. Storms are not unusual. Thank you, Daryl. Storms are not unusual. And the reason you hear me saying thank you is because people are letting me know that they're sharing. Are not unusual for these men. These men have seen and rode out some of the worst storms that could have ever come up. But there's a problem. There's a problem. Can I tell you what the problem is? These men decided to throw their livelihood overboard. Now, y'all got to remember this. If they don't get the goods to Tarsus from Joppa, they don't get paid. Thank you, Pat, for sharing. Thank you, Cora, for sharing. They don't get paid. Get this. Get this. Jonah 1:5 says that they threw the cargo overboard. That's right. Don't trust to your own understanding. Threw, thank you, Elder, threw all of their livelihood overboard, thinking that by doing so, it would lighten up the ship. And then by lightening up the ship would have the buoyancy to be able to survive the waves that are just about ready to destroy the ship. Now, I got to talk about something for just a second. Whenever you decide to live outside of the will of God, whenever you decide that you are going to live in rebellion against God, what you fail to understand is the impact of your rebellion affects the pockets, the livelihood, and the mentality of somebody else. Oh God, I wish somebody would catch what I just said. Y'all didn't catch that. Y'all, thank you, Brenda. Did y'all catch what I said? Anytime you say, I don't care what anybody else thinks, I'm going to do what I want to do, you don't realize how you are having an effect on the lives of other people. See, this is the thing that folk don't understand. While you out here messing up, you messing other folk up because you out here messing up. I wish somebody would talk to me. Did you catch that, Tori? Did you catch that? People don't understand. Sin, rebellion, hatefulness, meanness has an impact on other people that you don't even know. Here, because of Jonah's rebellion, because of Jonah's determination that he is not going to do God's will, he has now impacted the lot. Some kids are going to go hungry. Some bills are going to go unpaid because of one person's rebellion. Now, if don't nothing else get through to you, that ought to at least ring your bell for just a minute. You can't say, I'm grown, I do what I want to do, and it ain't nobody else's business. You don't understand that you've been bought with a price. You are no longer your own, which means everything you do has an impact on somebody else. You are hurting somebody else's future. You are hampering somebody else's opportunity to be able to move forward and live the kind of life that God would have them to live. You are standing in the way of someone opening a business or getting a breakthrough or hey Debbie, or having some other things happen in their life because you have decided that you just gonna do whatever you want to do and nobody better not challenge you because you grown and can't nobody tell you nothing. Here is the situation that Jonah has placed other people in because of his rebellion. They have thrown overboard their paycheck. They have thrown overboard their livelihood. Now here's the killer, y'all. In the midst of the storm that's rocking this boat like wildfire, Jonah's asleep. Y'all didn't catch that. Jonah is in the middle of the storm, and the storm has had no influence over his sleep. What are we talking about? Once again, fleeing from God's will had taken Jonah down, but the problem was while he was in the ship, how in the world could a person be in the bottom of the ship that's about to break open in the midst of the storm and not wake up? Well, the answer is Jonah had gotten so far outside God's will that even when the storm hit, Jonah didn't recognize his name was written all over it. Can I say this one more time? This is Tony Evans. This is some powerful stuff right here. Jonah had gotten so far outside God's will that even when the storm hit, Jonah didn't recognize his name was written over it. Are y'all catching that? He was so consumed with his own anger that he didn't even realize that the storm had his name on it. He didn't realize that the storm that was getting ready to destroy, had already destroyed the livelihood of other people, but now is getting ready to take the lives of other people, okay? He was so anesthetized and unconcerned that he didn't even, have you ever, hey Kim, how you doing? Have you ever been so carnally consumed that you didn't even recognize, hey Elder Carter, you didn't even recognize, make sure y'all share when y'all come on. You didn't even recognize that you are the reason for the storm. Somebody might be saying, I don't know why stuff just keep happening to me. I don't know why I can't seem to get ahead financially. I don't know why things are not working out for me. Could it be that you have removed yourself so far from the will of God that you don't even know you're the reason for the storm? And your rebellion is not just affecting you. Okay? Instead of that, he was down there knocked out. Jonah's fight with God had taken him so far down, so low, that he lost touch with God himself. Listen, you can never allow bitterness, anger, resentment, hatred to be so embedded in your heart that you no longer sense or feel God moving in your life. Can I say this one? Look, I don't care if it's your ex, your ex-husband, your ex-wife. I don't care if it's your ex-girlfriend, your ex-boyfriend. I don't care if it's a preacher, a pastor, a lay person, a deacon, a trustee, a usher, a nurse. I don't care who it is. You ought not allow that kind of rebellious attitude to move you so far away from God that you don't even know you've moved that far away from God. And so here, but see, here's the problem. You don't know it. Y'all didn't catch that. You don't know it. You can be so self-consumed with anger. Hey, Jewel. You can be so self-consumed with a vindictive attitude that you don't, okay. Y'all don't believe it. Y'all remember Samson? Y'all remember Samson? I'm doing the best I can. I'm trying to teach this thing because it's in my spirit. You remember Samson, you know, and he was messing around with Delilah, and he lied to Delilah about where his strength was, okay? And so in the middle of that, he came up with all of these lies, and then, you know, she say the Philistines are coming, and he would break his bonds, and Delilah, you know, she whipped it on him. She whipped that guilt on him, and all that kind of stuff. And the next thing he said was, all you got to do is cut my hair and I'll be weak just like all other men. And the next thing you know, he's so knocked out that he don't even realize that he's got a haircut going on. And the next thing you know, after they've cut all the hair off of his head, here's what he did. The Bible says, and he shook himself, which is what he normally did. Did you hear what I said, Tammy? He shook himself and did not know that the presence of God had left him. Did not know that he was just like anybody else due to the fact that he had disobeyed God, and that disobedience caused him to lose his function in the kingdom, and ultimately in the redemptive process of God caused him to lose his life. Let's talk about this, okay? But see, here's the problem. While you are knocked out in anger and bitterness and meanness, everybody around you is trying to survive. Yeah, okay, y'all can't. Everybody else is trying to survive because your rebellion is the creator of the storm. And so look at these guys. These guys here, they trying to figure out what in the world has gone wrong. In the midst of this, here's what they did. And it has to be a very overwhelming storm for these men to start crying out to their God. Now you got to look at this. They ain't sure which God is angry. They just know God is angry. Are y'all catching what I'm saying? That's all they know. They only know that God is angry. So they're calling out to their gods. Get this. They're praying to their God, who is no God, but they're praying to their God to come and intervene. Now, here's the problem. They cried out. They cried out to their own God. And the problem is, Jonah's not talking to God. Here's what they do. They go down and they find him asleep. Something must have touched somebody to say, everybody ain't up here. Everybody's not rowing. Everybody's not pulling their part. There's somebody missing. And in the midst of that, they go down and they confront him. It's like, what's wrong with you, man? How in the world, in the midst of all this chaos, can you be so silent and so quiet? You need to talk to you. Get up and call on your God, because maybe your God might answer prayer, and maybe your God will keep us from dying. I wish I had somebody that understood what I just said. Now, here's the problem. Because when you read this text, you need to understand Jonah is the preacher. And so what we have is an unbeliever telling the preacher, you need to pray. You know what would be horrible is if a sinner has to approach you and tell you in the midst of your whining and crying and, hey, Thelma, and being evil and hateful, that maybe you ought to try praying about it. It would hurt my heart. It would hurt my heart to claim to know Jesus, to claim to know the Lord, to claim to have a relationship and a strong fellowship with God, and somebody who does not believe in my God tell me, partner, you might need to pray about that. And here's the crazy thing. Are y'all ready for this? Here's the crazy thing. Nowhere in the text does it say Jonah prayed even after being challenged by a heathen. Y'all didn't catch that. Because if Jonah had prayed as the heathens had said, there's a good possibility that God would have intervened. But guess what? Jonah is so filled with venom and anger and discontentment and bitterness that he still won't pray. Now let's think about this for just a moment. Let's think about this. All of us have had a moment when we didn't want to talk to God. But what level of anger is this? That even in the midst of someone who does not have a relationship with our God and challenges you, we getting ready to die. It's not like the sun is shining and everything is fine. We're getting ready to die. So could you call on your God and maybe he might rescue us? Jonah refuses to do so. And so the storm is still raging. The storm is out of control. Jonah is so mean and hell bent on being bitter that they get together and they cast lots. And here's the funny thing about it is, you can run, but you can't hide. For the Bible says that the lot fell on Jonah. The lot fell on Jonah. Which means what? No matter what Jonah tried to do, God's will is going to take place, either willingly or kicking and screaming. I want y'all to think about that for just a moment. Has not there been a moment in your life when God had to do something dramatically crazy to you in order to wake you up and to get you to see that you are not living the life that God wants you to live? Have you not had those moments when someone precious to you God took from you, or something that was valuable to you was taken away from you, in order for God to get you to see that you're not walking right with me, you're not living right with me? And in the midst of a storm, Jonah still refuses to do what the heathens are doing. So what are we looking at here? What are we looking at here? When the lot fell on Jonah, he said, I'm a Hebrew and I fear the Lord God of heaven, who made the sea and dry land. Now, he acknowledges, get this, he acknowledges that he belongs to God. He says, I'm a Hebrew, and yes, he is the God of heaven and earth. He is the God of heaven and earth. Yes, I'm guilty. It's me. I'm guilty. But he's still so vehemently bitter that even in the midst of that, Jonah tells them what to do, and they're afraid to do it. You might say, well, why? I'd have threw him overboard. I'd have got rid. No, you have to understand that back in that day, to kill an innocent life meant that your life would be taken. See, here's what you have to understand. Running from God has now created a messy situation for more than just Jonah. See, your mess creates mess in other people's lives. And then we wonder why everything is so messy. We wonder why you so funky acting and so nasty acting, and then everybody around you is funky and nasty acting. And the reason that they acting like they are is because they in your mess. Okay, you shared it, Tori. Thank you. I forgot to tell you, for those of you that are coming on, make sure you share it so that it gets out to as many people, because I believe this lesson is a blessing. I really do believe this lesson is a blessing. The crewmen wanted to know how to stop the storm. Jonah told them that there was only one thing they could do: pick him up and throw him overboard. Pick him up and throw him. Pick him up and throw him overboard. Now get this. Are y'all ready for this? Man, Tony Evans is a powerful, powerful writer. Okay. Jonah wasn't trying to stop the storm. Y'all can't handle this. Jonah wasn't trying to stop the storm. Jonah was choosing to die rather than go to Nineveh. Woo. I had to stop on that one for just a minute. I had to stop on that just a minute. Can I say this one more time? Because I think some of y'all need to get this. Jonah wasn't trying to stop the storm. Jonah was choosing to die rather than go to Nineveh. His hatred was so strong toward Nineveh that he would rather die than to fulfill his calling. Did y'all catch that? Jonah said, if I die in this raging storm, I'm absolved from what God commissions me to do. Ooh, 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 ooh. I'm about ready to shout on that one. I'm about ready to shout on that. Because here's what many of us fail to understand. And I have said this before, and I need to say it again. You can't die until you fulfill your destiny. Woo, Jesus, God Almighty. You can't leave this place until you have fulfilled your destiny. That's right, Tori. It is deep drama. I mean, how in the world? He had a mental moment, Minister Sharp. Guess what? I bet you if I did a test, there might be a few people streaming with me, watching me stream, that may have been where Jonah is. Oh. Okay, see there. All right, Tammy. You understand what I'm saying? See, with you own up to the thing, God will deliver you from the thing that you own up to. And so here's the problem. He says, kill me. Kill me. Just go ahead and get rid of me. But here's the problem. Here's the problem. In the midst of Jonah's presupposition that when he hits the water, he will die, God has other plans. I'm so glad. 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 I'm excited. Y'all got to excuse me for a moment. That's a shouting moment right there. I'm so glad that in those days and in those times and in those moments when I said, you know what, you can have all of this. This isn't worth my time. This isn't worth my effort. This isn't worth my energy. I am not. I see holy hands being lifted. I'm not going to be bothered with this mess no more. I done had enough of it. This junk is driving me insane. You know what, Lord? It's better for me to die. And don't you think that you the first person that felt like dying? Because there's a couple of people, when God told them what they needed to do, they decided that death was better than doing what God would have them to do. I'm just excited that God, Katrina, did you care? I'm excited about grace. And many of us, you know, we'll shout on grace a little bit and we'll say, oh yeah, grace is good. You don't understand what grace has done for you when you was done yourself. You don't understand what grace and mercy has provided for you. You don't understand how grace and mercy stepped up in the midst of your mess and provided another opportunity for you. You don't have a clue that if the enemy could have took you out right where you were, the enemy would be laughing at God. But God says, I got my blood invested into the life of my child, and I refuse to allow my child to live beneath their privilege and not come forth in their destiny. And I understand that you want to quit. I understand that you done had enough of me. I understand that I don't want to be bothered with God, don't want to mention his name. But guess what? It's getting ready to be just like fire. Shut up in your bones. You can sit back and say what you don't want to do. You can sit back and say how you not going to live. You can sit back and say that God is not in control of anything in my life. It ain't over till God says it's over, and it will never be over until you step across your destiny and you have accomplished what God has preordained for you from the foundation of the world to get involved in and to bring to pass, because your deliverance is going to bring deliverance. Your breakthrough is going to bring breakthrough. Your coming out is going to bring somebody else out. And in the midst of it all, God has something prepared for you, even when you're not prepared to obey his will. My God, my God, my God. I got to slow down. I done got excited. I ain't supposed to act like that when I'm doing midweek worship. I'm supposed to act like that on Sunday morning. Here's what's happening. While Jonah has already determined that me dying is better than living. He can't see what's below the water. I'm about ready to shout. I'm about ready to shout, okay? At the point when Jonah is ready to commit suicide because he does not, there you go, D, grace and mercy. See, y'all getting ready to get me started again. I said I wasn't going to do that. But see, I know what I've done. I know what I've said. I know where I've been. I know what my attitude was. And God yet still look. See, when we was younger and heard, oh, he looked beyond my faults, that was just something to say. Guess what? Now that we're growing in the Lord and maturing in the Lord, when you say he looked beyond my faults, man, that stuff's got some gravity to it. It's got some weight to it, because you need to remember, you need to catch this very clearly. Jaleesa, if you don't catch nothing else, I'm trying to calm down. If you don't catch nothing else, you are only here by the grace and the mercy of God. You are only here because he looked beyond your faults. Because the truth of the matter is, he should have cut us off a long time ago. In the midst of putting up with our craziness, and we sitting up there telling God what we not going to do, and we're not going to do this, and we ain't going to do that, and you can't make me do it. God says, I made you. I'll do what I want to do. And I'll put you in a position where you ain't got nobody but me. Okay. Okay, I see some folk raising holy hands out there. You got to remember something. You got to catch this. You are who you are and where you are because of the grace of God. You are accomplishing what you're accomplishing because of the grace of God. You are blessed where you're blessed because of the grace of God. You got to also remember, mercy was holding you when you gave up. Mercy was taking care of you when you couldn't take care of yourself. Mercy was there for you when you wasn't there for nobody, anybody else, including yourself. I'm done. I got to press on. Here's the problem. Jonah didn't tell, bless his name. Jonah didn't tell the people on the boat, turn the boat around and take me back where I came from. Jonah says, I'd rather die than to complete my assignment. I'd rather die than to complete what the Lord has preordained for me to do. That's what bitterness does. It eats at your soul. It eats at your psyche. It eats at your faith and your willingness to follow God. It eats at everything inside of you, to the point, again, as I said before, and I say it again, that death is better than life. And I know to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. I get that. But God should not see you ahead of time. God should not see you until he says, well done, thy good and faithful servant. Woo. Okay. I ain't got but so many more minutes to go. Now, here's what you got to remember. Here's what you got to remember. He didn't say turn around so I can obey God. He didn't say turn around so I can retrace my steps and walk with God. He didn't say turn around because in turning around, it will provide an opportunity for me to go back where I started. He says, just throw me over and it's over. Throw me over and it's finished. He wanted those men to kill him by throwing him overboard. And these men are rowing desperately for their lives in the midst of the storm. And the more they rowed against the storm, the stronger the storm got. They were not going to throw him overboard. They were not. I wish somebody would talk to me, okay? Okay? You got to let go, Nancy. That's what's got to happen. You got to let go of that anger and bitterness. And here's the problem with a bitter person. They don't know they're bitter. Jonah is so mad. Jonah is so upset with God commissioning him to go do something that he's supposed to do anyway. So, Jonah want to pick and choose who he preached to. No, God said, you going down to Nineveh, you're going to preach to them heathens. And I guess what? When you preach what I tell you to preach, they're going to turn around. And Jonah said, oh, heck no. I am not going to go down there and do that. And he didn't say it verbally. He said it with his behavior. What does your behavior say about how you walk with God? I'm going to throw that out there. Don't answer it. Because, see, somebody might know the real you. What does your behavior say? What does your mouth say? What does your behavior say? What do your actions say about where you are with God? You know what? Some of y'all are answering, okay? Are you catching what I'm saying? You don't have no joy. You don't have no... There you go. That's what I'm talking about, okay? Tori, you ain't going to say? Because, Daryl, actions speak louder than words. Here's the problem. Did you catch me, Mary? Here's the problem. Am I teaching? Am I really teaching? Y'all just talking stuff. Y'all, is this, are y'all really, am I really doing this? Because this is in my spirit. The more you try to figure out how to get out of it, the worse the storm gets. And here's the problem. He is so angry that he still won't pray. Okay. I'm teaching. Okay, thank you. I really needed that, actually, because I wanted to make sure that this was more than just an emotional moment. But I need y'all to really get this, because all of us need an attitude check sometimes. All of us need somebody to check us. All of us need somebody to turn around and say, hey, you know what? You out of order. I'm looking at you. You're mean. You're hateful. Okay. All right. Okay. Don't run through the house, D. Don't run through the house. Okay. I got folk with hands lifted up. I got folk about ready to run through the house. I got folks shouting while I'm teaching. I just need us to catch this. Okay. Here's the problem. The more they rode, the worse it got. The more they rode, the more treacherous the stuff. Now listen, the boat is just about ready to fall apart. They are still trying to row, and the more they row in the storm, the more the storm attacks the boat. It gets to the point, ladies and gentlemen, that these men, I appreciate the encouragement. Thank y'all so much, okay? Talk to me, Minister Sean. Somebody does need a Nathan. And the problem is we ain't got Nathans because we don't want Nathans. Oh, y'all not hearing. We don't want somebody. Now, Nathan was good at it, because, see, if you come at some folk the wrong way, they automatically going to retaliate. But Nathan was able to use an illustration that got David's attention and caused David to get mad at the person that perpetrated it. And he turned around and said, why don't you look in the mirror? See, them the kind of folk we need. But we don't want them kind of people. We want the people that'll go along to get along. But every now and then you need somebody to walk up to you and say, hey, man, how you doing? I noticed you've been acting kind of hateful lately. Let me move on. And so here's Jonah refuses to pray. He says, rather than talk to God, because I know God is gracious and kind, just throw me overboard, let me die, and then I don't have to fulfill my commission. He failed to understand that while the storm is raging above water, there is no storm below water. Because here you see men who want to make sure that this man's blood is not required at their hand for killing an innocent man. They recognize clearly that something is wrong. The lot has fell on Jonah, which means Jonah is guilty. And listen, you don't need no lot to fall on you to know you guilty. You know you guilty. You know when you guilty. You know when you out of control. You know when your attitude is bad. You know when you're nasty. You know when you're short-tempered. You know all of that stuff. You don't really need nobody to tell you about that. You know when you hateful. You look. I almost said it like I was in church. Look at somebody tell them, you know when you hateful. You know when you are not. And don't give me that crap about, oh, this is how I am. This is just the way I am. No, this is what you become. Because can I tell you something? Nasty behavior is learned behavior. So I'm done. I got to press on. So here's what they do. They pick him up. They raise him in the air. And they throw him overboard. But here's what they did before they threw him overboard. They prayed to their God, who is no God, but to their God, don't let this man's blood be charged at our hands. They throw him overboard. And when Jonah hits the water, it's instantaneous calm. But here's what you got to see. Jonah had led these men to salvation without even trying. How did he do that? I'm glad that you asked me. Here's how these men came to know the God of Jonah. When the storm stopped, they recognized that out of all their praying to their idol gods, every god they prayed to did not stop the storm. But as soon as the guilty party hit the water and the sea calmed, they changed their religion. Jesus. This gives us something that I think all of us need to recognize. This shows us a very important principle about God. Even in our rebellion, God will still accomplish his work. Let's look at this, because I know y'all not ready for this. I know you're not ready for this, because see, some of you are going to take this as a license to be rebellious. No, you don't take this new grace as a cloak of maliciousness. Now, get this. If he would have obeyed, which God already knew he wouldn't. Catch this. God already knew he wouldn't. So what he did was he took Jonah's actions before Jonah knew he was going to act. Jesus, God Almighty, I'm about ready to shout. He took Jonah's actions before Jonah knew what he was going to do or how he was going to act. And he used what he knew Jonah would do to touch somebody else in the midst of his rebellious state. So while he's busy being mad at Nineveh and those down there, he doesn't even realize that his act of rebellion has led a ship full of men to his God. God takes every step of your life even when you step outside his will to touch the life of somebody else, because when your rebellious self creates a storm of an unbelievable magnitude, when you get thrown overboard and peace comes, somebody's going to say, now that's the real God. Did y'all didn't catch that? Y'all did y'all catch? Here's something you better know. Because God lives in eternity, past, present, and future, he already knows what you will do. And so what he does is he orchestrates you to come in contact with folk that you normally would not have come in contact with if you were not being rebellious. Paul says all things work together for good. I know y'all not catching. I know y'all not. Y'all okay? Some of y'all catching it. All things work together for good. God already knows your demeanor. God already knows what you will and won't do. And God gets in the midst of all of that and orchestrates encounters for you to have so that people won't become like you. Woo! They won't be rebellious like you because they'll recognize that your God is the real God. Your God is the only God. Your God is the God who keeps you. And so whenever you decide to step outside of the will of God and they see God whooping your behind, they be like, okay, that's the real one right there. Because when peace shows up, when you are no longer involved in or engaged in their lives, and they see that peace shows up once you are removed from the scene, they say, that's the God. So all of these men, every single one of them, converted to Jonah's religion because of his rebellious encounter. But let me say it one more time. Jonah didn't have a clue what was under the water. Nowhere in this text do we see up to this point that Jonah prayed. You did not pray. You ran away from your assignment. You decided that you were going to go someplace else. You had to pay for it because God does not finance rebellion. All of this craziness is going on. You get on this ship, headed to Joppa. The problem is God don't want you to go there. God wants you to go to Nineveh. And so in the midst of your rebellion, God starts this encounter with heathenistic people who are about ready to die and have lost their livelihood because of you. And so they wake you up and say, pray to your God. And you won't do it. They have given you an opportunity to pray to your God to see if maybe your God will be merciful on all of them. And you won't do it. They wake you up. The lot falls on you. You still ain't praying because death is better than life to you. And what you don't understand is while this boat can't move because of the magnitude of storm under the water, God has prepared this overwhelmingly large fish that's got your name on it. You won't pray. You won't obey. You won't move like I tell you to do. So how many times does this have happened to us when we refuse to listen or obey or turn to God? He sometimes allows the storm or the trial in our lives that places us in a position where we feel helpless, hopeless, and trapped. Jonah went down to Joppa instead of going where he was supposed to go. Jonah did everything he could to get away from his assignment. And God is getting ready to bring him back to his assignment. I only got 2 minutes left. I think I'm gonna have to stop right there. That's as far as I'm gonna go. And so we see here very clearly that Jonah said, I'll just die. I'll just die. Throw me overboard. I'll just die. I won't even have to be bothered with this no more. I'll just die. And God says it ain't over till I say it's over. God says it's not over till God says it's not over. God says it's not over until I say it's over. So all of us have been there. All of us have gone through that. All of us have been rebellious. Many of us at another level or another. But you ought not never let bitterness get you to the point that you find yourself in opposition to God. You ought not allow bitterness to be so strong. Oh, yeah. No, I gotta stop. I said it was going to be 1 hour, and I'm going to stick to that 1 hour. I have to do that to be faithful to my word. I know y'all want me to keep going, but I gotta do this. I gotta do this. Okay. And so here's the thing that happens. Sometimes it takes us to fall real low in order for us to look up. Sometimes we have to fall so low that there's no place else to look but up. Sometimes we have to find ourselves in a position where there's no place else to go but up. Well, I'm done. I'm out of time. I got to roll. I got to get out of here. Listen, I pray that this word was a blessing. I pray that this study was a blessing. I pray that it was not just convicting, but convincing. I pray that you will be the better because of the encounter that we have had tonight. Love you, each and every one of you. My prayers are with you. This is day 19 of the 30/40 day fast. Some of us are doing 30 days up until first fruits, which is the first Sunday in February. Others are going on the 40 days. And I just bless God for you as I continue to pray for you and with you, that through this moment of sacrifice, you will know God in ways never seen before. May God bless you. May he keep you is our prayer.